Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Um, hello, Time Roller and Goblin and an actual Cloud and Priscilla. It's nice to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. Sorry, everybody. I'm going to try and keep my enthusiasm just toned down just a smidge this time, even though it should be very excited because I'll be talking about the anticipated games of 2023, but at the same time, I'm also struggling with a cold. I've got this piping hot mug of honey water, which you'll be seeing me slowly go through to keep my throat from being quite so rough. And I'm just going to try and take it easy. Thank you, Momentum, for the sound check. Hello, Notable Joe. Hey, what am I playing now? I have no idea what you're playing now. That's a good name, though. Also, by the way, I missed it for the last live stream, but thanks to Party on Dudes for resubscribing. Thanks to Turtle MCD for some bits, and Commanulant for a gift sub. Oh, that was very, very nice. And West Lloyd Alcoholic and Time Roller give you a shout out for. Oh, thanks for the shout out. I don't even know what that means. Been doing Twitch for a year now, and I still don't know what some stuff means. But anyway, hey everybody. How are you doing? We are about to enter a new year. Hopefully it'll be a great one for you and yours. And yeah, I'm just here to talk about a bunch of games. And it's interesting, I originally had planned on doing a much more long, in-depth list. Normally I do like my top 25 every year, and then I do some other stuff. Because honestly, I just did not have the energy to dig as deep and do as much research or to talk as long. I'm actually going to be doing my top 10 games that I haven't played, and then I'll be doing a top 10 games that I have played. And that'll really be a top 15 because that'll dovetail into another recent video I did, so I'll point people to that. And so yeah, still 20 games that I think are worth paying attention to. That's pretty good, right? You let me know, folks. But as always, while we're waiting for folks to show up, we'll do an unboxing first. And I've got a copy of Bot Factory here. It is, I think this is going to be coming out in January. So it's early in the year, so it's coming out very soon. Now, this is a cheating unboxing because it came to me already open. There is no cellophane on it. Eagle Griffin Games, I guess they must have been using it for something else because they had already punched it and put everything in its containers. So this is really going to be an introduction to what the storage contents and whatnot look like. But let's go on ahead and do that now by going overhead and finding that the camera is disabled. Fine, let's go on ahead. Oh, I think that's right. I disabled it before. Can I re-enable it? Overhead camera. Activate. Come on, camera. There we go. Phew, that was a close one. Oh, by the way, here are my Hall's Breezers that once I run out of my honey water, I'll be sucking on these for the rest of the show. I have a personal story to tell with Hall's Breezers, actually. You know, I lost my mom last year, and going through all her stuff, one of the things we found was a case of these. She really loved them, and I don't blame her because they do a decent job at dealing with, sore throatness, but they literally taste like candy. When you first pop them in your mouth, they're kind of like butterscotch, but then over time they start to get kind of fruity. They're really freaking good. And so I have been, for the last few nights, very thankful to my mom that she, unbeknownst to her, left me something that is helping both me and Jen get through this flu. So thank you, Mom. You were the best. Okay. But, let's see. Scott O'Brien, nope, the glitch still happens from time to time. I've just kind of made my peace with it. I know you sent me a very long message with some stuff to check out, and I had every intention of doing that. In fact, it's still in my to-do list. I think it was you, Scott, who did it, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. But anyway, let's see here. Bot Factory from Eagle Griffin Games. Artwork by Pedro Soto and Yao Quintela Martins and Vito Lasarda designing. So the interesting thing about this is basically Kanban, but streamlined down, not to a lightweight, family-friendly gateway-style game, which is what, Mercado de Lisboa was. Took Lisboa and turned it really into almost a family-level game. This still is just taking the extreme super heaviness of what you've come to expect from Vito Lasarda and just kind of turning it down into more of like a, I don't know, an Agricola level kind of thing, or somewhere around there. So anyway, this is interesting. I do not know why the boards don't fold, or they didn't, what do you call it, jigsaw puzzle together. That would have been kind of nice. But there are 4 independent boards, right? And they all lay out like this. And if you've played Kanban, this should look fairly familiar. And then you've got this thing that just sits here loose. Whee! Oh, thank you for subscribing. What am I playing now? That is very kind. As always, getting closer and closer to unlocking more stuff for the channel. All right, we do not need my Halls Breezers. This episode not sponsored by Halls. Alrighty. Let's see here. Wow, got my green screen on. I'm pretty chillaxed right now. I'm not going to worry about it too terribly much. But yes, Happy New Year. What am I playing now? Thank you. All right. And I see Goblin asks the obvious question to Goblin, should one get this or should one get Kanban? I can't say. I haven't played it yet. Jen and I are planning on playing it ASAP in the new year. I'm really looking forward to it. Because, I don't know, I've kind of gotten to the point where, I've always loved Vito Lasara's designs, but it's just so intimidating now to sit down to all the incredible amounts of permutations and machinations and mechanisms that are, just part and parcel. I'm doing a run-through for Weather Machine in January, and that's going to be scary. It's actually interesting. January is Vito Lasarda month because I'll be doing a run-through of Weather Machine. Jen and I will probably do a rest and relax video of this if we enjoy it. And then I'm also going to be doing a solo recluse run-through of Kanban EV, the new EV. So it's going to be all Vital all the time. So I would be in a better position to answer that question after I played the new Kanban EV. Certainly one thing, Kanban EV is very expensive. This one is a little bit more wallet friendly, I'm sure. Anyway, continuing. So the game comes with very nice, if you like to squirrel everything away into little inserts. And by the way, the developers did this. They took their punch boards and put them underneath. So I guess that's official. Put them underneath so everything lies flush with the top of the box. So each player gets their own little box of their worker because like Kanban, this is a worker placement game where you have one worker. And then we also have these little speech bubble icons, which I'm not really quite sure what they're inclined to do. I remember a big part of EV or regular Kanban was having the meetings and, crowing about your achievements so that you would get, noticed by your manager. And there's still the meeting room over here, and I see all these little things. So these are probably opportunities to tell Sandra just what a great job you did, and maybe other stuff as well. But anyway, so everybody gets one of these. And then we've got this. Alrighty. And, something should be there. Probably one of these things should be in there. But anyway, so instead of building cars in this game, we're building robots. And you've got, yellow robot parts and blue robot parts, red robots, and I think wild card robots. These probably can work with anything. And you've got this big old turn wheel. You can see ones that are coming in the future. When you activate this, you can rotate to get the 2 that you want available to you. If there's particular things you're trying to grab. So this is where you get the robot manufacturing stuff is in this section. If you do a worker placement action over here. And if I recall correctly, this is the place where all the blueprints are that you need. All right, some of these are blueprints, right? Yeah, these are the blueprints. You can see on one side and on the other side. Oh, that's a cute little robot. Oh, I don't have my green screen on. I'm not going to worry about it. It's a little robot. So you get to make a final product, you got to get all the parts, you got to get the blueprints, you got to assemble it all together, doing the worker placement here, 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 and then over here is where you do all your management meetings and whatnot. And then of course, cute little robots, because they are coming off this assembly line over here, just like the cute little cars, but these are much cuter robots than the cars ever were in Kanban. And while all this is going on, you've got Sandra, who is a worker as well. And that's the trick, is that every round, Sandra's going to move from one department to another, and keep track of what you're doing as players. So that's always something do I want her to see what I'm doing? Do I want to stay away from her so she won't see I'm doing a bad job? Apparently she's been, when we played original Kanban, we generally tended to play with mean Sandra. Apparently, there's only nice Sandra now, so that's a change. But it looks nice. It's got great production values, and but it doesn't really seem. I played Mercado de Lisboa, and that game really just streamlined. I mean, it just took one small portion. Of Lisboa and made a whole game out of that. This still seems to have taken all of the elements of the main game and just stripped each element down by 50%. And that's really, really interesting to me. I'm very excited about it because I love Vital's designs. And like I was saying right up front, it's kind of gotten to the point where Jen and I are just intimidated to play them. So this could be perfect for us, which is why I'm very excited about it. I'm going to try and put it all back here a little bit correctly. But that was just a sneak peek of a game that should be going wide into distribution very, very soon, as I understand it. All right. And, and did I actually look at the rulebook? I don't remember if I did. Yep. Lots of text. Lots of good pictures. Again, I don't think I've ever really had much problems with Vita Lasarda rulebooks. I know a lot of people had a problem with the original CO2 rulebook, but I understand why they did. And hopefully the problems of days gone by are no longer an issue, that there was always kind of a worry about making the rules too thematic. When in fact you should always lean into, especially Vita Lasarda games, because his designs are always so incredibly thematic. But anyway, folks, that was it. Oh my gosh, I am just... Are we doing okay? I want to bring more energy for you. But I think I've just got to keep it at this speed. So, let's see. Oh, wow. Priscilla is having friends flashbacks. I know what you're talking about. Yes. It's nice to see you again, Priscilla. I don't think I've seen you around for quite a while. Nice to have you back. The rules are too thematic, but should they be thematic? Says Goblin. I don't know what you mean, Goblin. You're speaking in riddles. But I mean, what I was referring to is the original CO2, which came out over 10 years ago. I mean, Vita Lasarda was way ahead of the curve when it comes to board games that are all about a green future. I mean, he did it before Green New Deal was in the popular lexicon. Nowadays, tons of those games are coming out. I'll be talking about one as an anticipated game for next year. Spoiler alert. But the problem with CO2 was the rulebook was very dry, and it just stripped all the theme out and talked only about mechanisms. And it had so many weird, offbeat elements to it, like with the way that the CO2 capture token market worked, which was very different than other board games. And so it just tried, and if it had just taken the time to explain things in thematic terms, like here's how this system works in real life, here's how it works in the game, instead of just trying to abstract everything down into like engineer speak. And I don't think that's been a problem with Vital's rulebooks since then. I think that's a lesson he learned, because I know everything in his game is driven by theme. I mean, he really goes out of his way to try to include every little thing, which is why he's always got so many little special case rules. Okay, I see people are starting to show up. And, let's see here. Okay, and apparently that answered your question, Goblin. Let's see, before we get going, that was much quicker than I thought. Normally, I try to do stuff with the audience for at least like a half an hour before I get into the main run through, because of course people are always showing up late. But, excuse me. I don't know. This is probably going to be, we're going to be a little bit more quick in and out. And oh my gosh, you can't tell, but I am sweating, but I'm cold. Ooh, but that's okay. That's okay. We're going to get through this. Don't worry, folks. Happy New Year to all who are showing up. Yeah, evolution of ideas. Again, I continue to be excited, but always tinged with a slight edge of, will it be too much? Because On Mars was too much for us, quite frankly. And I never circled back around and tried the co-op, which I think an expansion for co-op came out, and I really wanted to. And once upon a time, we thought Kanban was just the cat's pajamas, but I'm going to be trying to play EV in January. And I'm just, you scare me, Vital. I don't know, as I get older, I just don't have as much mental bandwidth for all the little stuff. Maybe. We'll see. Anyway. Okay. So, I'm just going to get right to it, folks. We are here to do a anticipated games countdown for 2023. I've got 2 lists I'm going to be doing, and now I'm not going to be doing any of the lead in, the hey everybody, welcome, it's a new year, etc., etc. Nor will I be playing all of the contributors. I'm still, once again, just like last week when I did my top 10 games of 2022, I'm still waiting for one person who has not come through, and I've sent an email right before we started. Hopefully they will be getting me their thing, because after I'm done with this, I'll spend all afternoon editing it together, putting in the contributors' most anticipated games, and putting in my responses, so I'll record those. So, even though you're here today, you're going to see me talk about 20 games. There will be an additional, 8 games that are discussed when I merge all the contributors' anticipated games into the video that will go up on YouTube tomorrow. So, or the videos. So you'll still want to check that out to hear what all the contributors say. But for now, I think we're ready to go, right? Oh my goodness. I wonder if I need to bring my gain up, because I'm noticing I'm not even really hitting the yellow. You guys can all hear me. I think somebody said you can hear me okay. So I think that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Honestly, I just can't. I do not have the strength to stress about things. I'm just going to let it go, and wherever the chips fall, wherever they may, right? Okay, so. Okay, thank you, Goblin. Good to know. I sound fine. Okay, then. Let's make sure that the browser window is good. Bloop. Yep. Pilgrim is not on the list. Pilgrim actually came out in 2022. And unfortunately, I didn't get a copy of it, so I can't really say if it made my top. It was a really good game, as I recall. Generally liked it. I think she gave it 4 stars, if I recall correctly. But anyway, this is just the front page of Board Game Geek. So that is here. Things are working. Okay. Oh, I need to turn on the banner. Where's the banner? Where's the banner? Where's the banner? Okay, there we go. All right, folks. I'm just going to spoil number 10 for you. It's damage control, right? Okay, so there it is. And there's the text. Okay, cool. So, all right, what is my lead-in going to be? Before this, I will have been full screen, and I will have just been, thanks to all the contributors, you're really great, looking forward to seeing what you do for the channel in the new year, etc., etc. But with all that out of the way, folks, I'm here to tell you about the 10 games I am most excited about, starting with number 10, Damage Control. And and I'll probably record that, but like crossfade that to this of the thing kind of scrolling in off screen. So it would be kind of nice if the text wasn't there in the talking head. So how about I just hide the banner right now, hide it, right? Okay, so it's gone, so that, because it won't be in the real thing, that'll just come out. It'll say damage control down at the bottom, and I should be good to go. And I've got my 10 tabs lined up. Right, okay. So, all 10 of these games, by the way, I'm going to talk about, I have not played any of them. I do not have any coverage of them. These are just pure, raw anticipation, because I am, well, you might not be able to tell if you're used to my regular enthusiasm level, but I am very excited about all of these, and I will tell you why. All right. Okay, so. Oh, Foxy, what song did I put in your head? I have no idea. These days, Jen and I are pretty much perpetually have songs from the Christmas musical Spirited stuck in our heads, and we constantly say good afternoon to each other all the time and call each other wankers, cantankerous buffoons. That's where we are these days, but apparently I must have dropped some lyrics, and I apologize. Hopefully it's a good song, a good earworm that I squirreled away in there for you, Foxy. Okay. So, let's get one more sip, because I'm going to try and do this in one take, like always. I got to put my little reminder up here. And I'm streaming. If you folks have any questions, of course, as always, if you could start them with a question mark, so that they will go into the queue. See, there's, I see, you already had one, which was Goblin asking about, Goblin, ask me a month from now. Once I have played Kanban EV again, and I've played bots. If I had to guess right now, honestly, I'd probably go with Bot Factory, because it's cheaper and it's not quite so intimidating. I mean, Vidal's big box games are like $150 now on average, right? That is spendy. Oh boy. Oh. Okay. we are going to get through this, folks. Let's see. So I think we're ready to go. Let me go on ahead and mark this moment. Starting with number 10 on the list. I forgot what it was. Okay, fuck. Oh, shoot. Crap. Oh, crap. Sorry. I might have to bleep that out. I just, my anti-curse sensors are down. I just said what I really thought. Oh, hopefully it was under my breath and nobody heard the word that rhymed with cluck that I just said. Because, all right, so it's damage control. Marvel damage control is number 10, which is an odd one. But okay, all right, anyway, here we go. All right, so trying again. Starting with number 10 on the list, Marvel damage control. And folks, I am very excited about this for a number of reasons. One, well, I'm just the biggest Marvel fanboy. Make mine Marvel ever since I was a little kid. And I very much love the idea of a game set in the Marvel Comics universe, not centered around the heroes, but centered around the construction crews, the normal, everyday men and women who try to clean up after the superhero battle is over. This is like a whole thing in the comics. They've started bringing it into the MCU, and they're making a game about it now. It's from designer Omari Akil, who he had a really big hit, was it 2 years ago, with Rap Gods? I haven't played that yet, but I've heard nothing but good things, so I'm very excited to see it. And then the other thing I'm super excited about is from WizKids. And here's the deal, folks. I had no idea. If you had told me a year ago that WizKids would have had 2 of my top 10 games of 2022, I don't know if I would have believed you, but they did. And so anything WizKids is doing moving into 2023, I'm very excited about. So there's a bunch of reasons to be stoked. But in addition to that, I just love the idea of, hey, okay, after the battle is over, and this destroyed battle area, this is a picture taken from a demo at PAX Unplugged, it looks like. The destroyed battle area is combined of like 2 different decks of cards. There's 4 decks of cards. One about Asgardian battles, one about Ultron battles, one about Pym particles. So you take 2 of those things together to represent the hero and the villain who are fighting. You shuffle them up, you swoosh them all down, face down, and I'm assuming you can't get to those things that are lower on the deck until you reveal the stuff that's above the deck. But all this is being done. I think it's a deck builder as well, because you have a deck of cards that represent all of your employees who have all kinds of special powers, and there's all the different refuge you're getting, based on the supervillains and the superheroes. So I just love this thematically, and they all seem like they've got interesting powers on them that you're going to build up over time. Elements from the heroes as well. And I believe the heroes are actually still hanging around. And if you do a good enough job, you can get them on side and they will help you out as well. So that all sounds very, very cool. I am really excited for this because of the designer, because of the publisher, because of the subject matter, and because of the interesting approach to it. The way that it's not just a grid of 16 by 16 cards, but it looks like, a rubble-strewn area with all the cards, and you got to dig down to find the stuff that's underneath. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it should be a very, very neat game, and that's why it comes in at number 10 on the list, Marvel Damage Control. Then we go on to number 9 on the list, Point City. Point City, which I didn't even know about until yesterday when I was doing all my research. This had completely flown under the radar. But a couple of years ago, designers Molly Shannon, Robert Melvin, and Sean Stankiewicz, who are just a trio powerhouse, the friends who are behind Flat Out Games, who are just putting out amazing, gateway level games that still have enough depth and interest level for hardcore gamers like me and Jen. They have just been putting out a string of fantastic games. And one of their biggest hits to date so far for publisher AEG was Point Salad. Very simple card drafting game where you are literally grabbing salad components to score points. So now they've done a sequel to that, Point City, build your city and score in hundreds of unique ways. And that sounds very cool to me because I believe they said there are 150 unique building cards as we are trying to build up our city in this game with all kinds of powers. There's no videos for it yet. There must be images. Yes, here they are. So, here's, and it looks like Point Salad, they're all two-sided, so they could either represent the different resources you need, like economy, energy, ecology, community, ingenuity, which looks like a wild for all the other things, or they represent the buildings that require those resources to build, and then they've got, whatever abilities they've got. But the interesting thing is, here is a picture that was snapped, again, at PAX Unplugged. I really need to get myself to PAX Unplugged, apparently, because I would have had a chance to play this thing, or at least talk to him about it. All the cards are laid out in a random 4x4 grid. And, they're all two-sided cards, so I assume they're shuffled and all around. And what you do is, on your turn, you have to pick any two adjacent cards you want, and then add them to your own city that you are building over to the side. So this is, to a certain extent, exactly the same thing as Point Salad, where, hey, there were all these cards that were flipping up and you took two every round, but there it was much more simple. There were just 4 cards. You could take any 2 you wanted. You were kind of trying to pay attention to what's coming in the future and all that. Here, I think it's going to be a much more interesting and engaging puzzle to work out because, well, do I want a couple of resources? Do I want this building in this resource? I want that building, but the resource that I need to build it isn't next to it. What do I do? I just instantly, I look at this and I can see these are going to be fun, interesting, compelling decisions every turn as you try to decide which 2 adjacent cards do you want to grab. Somebody sees you grab a bunch of community. They might know you're going to try and build that community-based building, and maybe they're going to do something about that. Who knows? I certainly don't, because I'm just going based on having played Point Salad, which was fantastic. And again, everything from Molly, Robert, and Sean has been really, really great. Verdant was a phenomenal game that they brought out last year. And so whenever they get together, I'm excited for what they've got in mind. And in 2023, it's going to be Point City, baby. Okay, let's move on then to number 8 on the list. Divinus. Now, this actually was on my most anticipated list for last year, too. It looks like they took a little bit longer to bring it out, but that's okay. I am still super stoked for it because this is from publisher Lucky Duck Games, which is cool. They do generally very high-quality productions, and they do really great digital app-assisted stuff as well, and this game definitely features that. But I'm more interested in the designer, Philip Malunski, because he designed one of the greatest tile laying games of all time, Capital. Although I think it got renamed to something, didn't it? What was it? Let me look him up here. All right, a lot of people are excited about Destinies, and he did Magnum Sol back in the day. CV is phenomenal too, but Warsaw City in Ruins, which I believe was previously called Capital, is, again, one of the best tile layers of all time. So, Philip is coming back and doing another tile layer that just looks gobsmackingly gorgeous, just drop dead, amazingly beautiful, this game. And it is all about grabbing tiles to build up our own little biome. And, the different tiles have different icons. We're trying to do set collection and whatnot. And apparently it's driven by every round we roll dice, and we can take the results of our 3 dice and we can add them together or subtract them or do various necessary math things to be able to take, I want to get tile number 20. Well, okay, I guess I could take the 6 and a 6 and a 6 and a 2. There went 4 of my 5 dice or something like that. I'm not quite sure what the full length of it is. I watched some of Monique and Naveen's excellent run-through to get an idea, and it seemed like it was fairly sharply laid out. But here's the interesting thing. I'm kind of bearing the lead, folks. Yeah, this is a gorgeous tile layer from somebody who has an amazing pedigree for tile laying games, from a publisher that's known for really wonderful productions and digital implementation of their productions. All that aside, this is a legacy game. Every game you play, you are going to be making permanent changes to the world because there is a war between gods going on, and we are demigods trying to seek the favor. According to the video I saw, it starts out with the Greek pantheon against the Norse pantheon. And so we're trying to decide, hey, what pantheon is on the rise? And that will actually change the tenor of future games. If, the Greeks rise ascendant over the Norse gods or whatever, you make changes to your dice. In the prototypes I looked at, they were putting stickers, but I think for the final game, they're removable somehow. I'm not really quite sure how that works. And, like I said, there is app assistant because the game is very strongly story-driven. And if you watch all the way to the end of Monique and Naveen's, they are before you play. The last thing that happens in their run through, like my jaw dropped. I almost am inclined to say don't watch to the end because you don't want that surprise spoiled for you if you play the game. But I'm glad I did because wow, those kinds of things can happen in the story driven by the choices we made in an app that is keeping track of what we're doing. Yes, please. I am excited. I have been excited about this ever since I've heard about it. And now that I've seen video of it and pictures of it, I'm as excited as I've ever been, which is why Divinus comes in at number 8. Then we move on to number 7 on the list, Earth. And honestly, this is one that was on Kickstarter in 2022. Totally missed it. I think it was running in March, and I don't know what I was doing at the time, but I am really embarrassed that I have not talked to you about this game sooner. But fortunately, a couple of weeks ago, I did top 10 crowdfunded games of 2022 with Chris George of Room and Board, which is another fantastic channel, by the way, folks. You have to subscribe. If you like anything I do, you will definitely like what Chris does. But anyway, Chris put this on his list, and he talked to me about it, and yeah, I am super stoked for it now. This is a game where we are, basically deciding the development of biomes on Earth. And this is another game that comes with a gigantic deck of cards with tons of variety, tons of variability, and gorgeous presentation of stuff from creatures and environments from all around the world. And it is a what do you call it? A race for the galaxy style game in that, hey, when a player's live, they pick one thing and all the other players get to follow. And so I love that mechanism, that following mechanism, whenever it shows up in games, because it's just one of the coolest ways to get interaction between players. If I can figure out what you're going to do, when you're going to zig instead of zag, I can make my plans that much stronger, and the same for you. That's why you always pay attention to your opponents in these sorts of games. Excuse me for a second. Oh my goodness. Anyway, and if that weren't enough, apparently all the cards are color-coded as well, so that in future turns, when certain colored actions or certain colored cards are played, that will activate all the previous cards you played of that color. So you can start setting up really big combo chains and whatnot, which is something Jen and I always very much appreciate. So it looks great, it sounds great, and Chris George, somebody whose opinion I very much respect, he gave it high marks, which is why I am excited for it. And Earth, just simply Earth, comes in at number 7, most anticipated game of 2023. All right, then, let's move on to number 6, Bot Factory. And now, this one I've been stoked for a while. Because it is from co-designer Vito Lasarda. He's working with, I believe, his same, was it his design partner who worked on, no, I do not know his, Yao Quintella Martins. Oh yeah, Yao has apparently done quite a few games that I'm not familiar with, but this is Vital not flying solo, but he's taking one of his most well-loved designs of all time, Kanban, or more recently Kanban EV, and changing it from a game about working in an automotive manufacturing plant and turning it into a more fun, silly, lighthearted, it's a robot manufacturing plant. And the thing is, a couple of years ago, Vital worked with another designer, and the two of them took Lisboa, maybe Vito Lasarda's heaviest game to date, and streamlined it down to a little gateway-style game. And I think a lot of people were unhappy with that game because, Vito Lasarda is known for incredibly rich, heavy, big, complex games. Some of the heaviest Euros you're ever going to play. Incredibly thematic and all that. And when they stripped it down to really something that was about the same level as a Ticket to Ride, that's not what people wanted to see. So it's interesting in that they're doing the same thing again, taking Kanban, another one of his favorites, and streamlining it down, but not all the way down to Ticket to Ride level or Lords of Waterdeep level. This looks like it's coming down to a more medium weight type Euro instead of a really, really heavy one. And that's very exciting for me because I've always loved Vital's designs, but over time I found myself getting a little bit more intimidated every time one of his new games shows up because they're so complex. And so a game where it has the heart and soul. This is a worker placement game where you have one worker that is you, that you're moving around and you're trying to stay ahead of your manager, Sandra. I think her name is still Sandra in this game, actually. She's followed you from one job to another. I'm really excited to see how well Vital and Yao or I'm sorry if I don't know how to pronounce your name, Jaoa, have kept the core alive, but brought it down into something that you can maybe get done in an hour in more of a medium weight, which is what gets me so stoked for number 6 on the list, Bot Factory. Okay, now we go on to number 5, the Bazaars of Ubar, which just finished its crowdfunding campaign. At the end of December, really flew under the radar. Obviously, putting up a game on Kickstarter in December is always a bit of a risk because people aren't thinking about backing games anymore. They're thinking about the games they got to get and put under their tree for their friends and loved ones or whatever. But when I checked out this game, I fell hard in love with it because it really engenders in me very strong Glenmore vibes because this is a tile-laying engine builder where you're harvesting resources and storing them in your flying airship. It's kind of a fantastical Arabian Nights type setting, I believe, something like that, with flying ships and all that. But anyway, you're collecting all these resources to get them to be able to grab and build tiles. And when you put the tiles down, you build them in your own little grid, just like Glenmore. And in Glenmore, when I put a tile down, I activate all the adjacent tiles and that tile. And that one simple rule led to such wonderful, deep, crunchy gameplay, and I've loved it. I've seen very few games that have attempted anything like it. Bazaars of Ubar, I think, takes it to the next level because when you put a tile down, it's not just that you blanket, affect or activate that tile and everything around it. Instead, these tiles have little arrows on them that tell you that, okay, activate this and everything to the right, or activate this and everything on this row. I think there's some pictures somewhere in here past all the stuff. Nope, there's not. All right, anyway, so, gosh, I could have sworn there were like the little animated GIFs. But no, there are not. Anyway, though, it looks really great to me. I'm a huge, Glenmore to this day is still one of my favorite tile-laying games of all time, and tile-laying is one of my favorite mechanisms of all time. So something that takes the ideas of Glenmore into a new direction and does fresh, new, fun stuff with it in what looks like a very bright and inviting, colorful fantasy world. All of this makes me very excited for number 5 on the list of most anticipated games for 2023, The Bazaars of Ubar. Okay, now let's go on to number 4. Rainer Knizia, the Doctor of Design, is in the house with My Island. And now, unfortunately, there is almost no information about this game at all. Develop your island through the ages in this family-friendly legacy experience. And now that'll tell you something, because this is basically a sequel to My City. And Jen and I were blown away by Rainer Knizia trying his hand at a legacy-style game. My City was fantastic. Probably one of the best implemented legacy games I have played thus far, and I've played most of them. And if I were ever to do a top 10 legacy games, My City would rank very, very high. And the only thing that kept it from being higher is that Dr. Knizia didn't stick the landing. After you finish the campaign, you could keep playing, but a lot of the stuff that made the game so special got thrown away. I'm hoping that he learns his lesson from that and puts a little bit more work into the post game of My Island, which from this, all I can tell you is the box cover. I looked around, there's no pictures anywhere. Even though this game has gotten delayed over and over. It was supposed to be early last year. But anyway, I can tell apparently they are going to be hex tiles we're laying down instead of squares like My City. So it'll probably be a little bit more complex, a little bit more interesting. I, again, cannot stress just how fantastic My City is as a standalone legacy game. You still have a game left over, but work could have been done. My fingers are crossed that My Island sticks the landing and is even better than its predecessor, My City. And that, folks, is number 4 on the list. Okay, number 3 is one I'm very, very excited about. It is Daybreak. Now, this is from the creator of Pandemic. Matt Leacock is going back to working on, he's working on a co-op game that is not Pandemic inspired, which is, cool in and of itself. And it looks like this thing really blew up on BackerKit. It was very, very successful. If I recall, he had a co-designer on this. Matteo Menepes, a designer and educator specializing in cooperative play. So that's a good team. But what is the game about? Well, it is about players working cooperatively to save the world by bringing around a green new future, which is a subject matter that has popped up recently in a bunch of games. There were a bunch of Kickstarter games over the last couple of years that have really, because obviously this is all part of the zeitgeist as more and more people are coming on board with the idea that, look, we have to turn things around. And so, why does this one stand out from all the other ones? Because that really grabs my attention. Why do I think this might be the best game to tackle this subject matter since Vito Lasarda's CO2 that came out over a decade ago? Mr. Lasarda was so far ahead of the curve. CO2 was brilliant. But what I'm excited about with this, there's a few things. Let's see, I'm pretty sure, yeah, this one. It's all about, trying to sequester or stop the production of carbon, and which are represented by these cubes. Hey, more forestation means you can sequester. So you can sequester in the, in the forests or in the oceans. Although, the more of that, and the more carbon that you cannot take care of starts making the world temperature rise. Which will lead to various and sundry disasters, pretty much all the kind of stuff you would expect. But what, there's a few things that really jump out at me. One, the game has a really strong focus, I don't know if they're going to show it here, on the effect that global warming has on communities, which is not something that generally, most games that are like this tend to focus, all right, there's no pictures of it, you'll have to take my word for it, most of these games tend to focus on the industry side. What's the effect on industry, global warming and the attempts to, curb greenhouse gas emissions? This game, we are the industry, we are the people, I should say, trying to stop it. So one of the biggest disasters is that it can affect communities because we have on our board, more and more communities are displaced or affected. And I appreciate that the message is more human-centric here than it has been in most other games of this ilk. But I stayed on this because there's another thing I really appreciate about this game. I believe 150 cards, if I recall correctly, that's how many comes with it. Each card represents a different, unique way that humanity can fight the effects of climate change, can curb our, addiction to fossil fuels and all that. And every single one of these cards literally has a QR code on it that while you're playing, you can... Oh, what? Actually, I don't really know what is this about. That sounds really interesting. I mean, with 150 cards, I guarantee you are going to hear about stuff you've never heard of before, and you can learn more about it. So this game, the interesting thing about these games, and this is true for CO2 as well, is they can tend to be a little, depressing, quite frankly, when they stop to make us reflect on what a bad job we have done so far. As a species, we've known about this since the 90s, and the industries involved, they've known about it for a lot longer, and they've just tried to keep it quiet, same way tobacco used to do. And so we are way behind the curve. And the thing is, it is so easy to just throw your hands up and say, well, whatever. It's doomed. Millions of people are going to die. There's nothing I can do about it, so why even bother? This game, because of its focus on 150 different things that the smartest of us are working on night and day around the world, I think has the potential to be a really positive, uplifting game that can remind us how, hey, when we're at our best and we work together, we can do anything as a species. We can destroy the world, but we can save the world too, which is why I am very, 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 very excited about number 3 on the list. Plus, it's always just good to see a new co-op design from Matt Leacock. Daybreak. Okay. Then let's go on to number 2 on the list, Mythwind. Okay, this was a monster hit when it was on crowdfunding. 11,000 backers, made 1.3 million, and I'm not surprised because this is the next game from the publisher of Stars of Ikarios. Stars of Ikarios just barely missed making my top 10 of the year, and so I'm hardcore digging this publisher's pedigree. But what I'm more excited about is this game's design, because what it's really trying to do is capture the feel of open-ended video games like Stardew Valley or what was the old Nintendo one? Animal Crossing, those kinds of games. That's just like, hey, this is a world you just live in. This is not a game to be beat. This is a world that you just want to see how it evolves and grows over time at the same time that you are growing and evolving while you explore everything you can be. And I love that. I love it when games take brave, new, bold, experimental stances. The designers were very upfront saying, yeah, this game doesn't have an ending. You just keep playing. And, every once in a while you get it out and you play it some more and you see how the world keeps changing and you're just trying to... Now, I know some people said, well, that sounds ridiculous. How can it be a game if it doesn't have, an in-game condition and victory points? Well, for folks who say that, I would like to point you to a little game called The Sims, which has proven now for decades that you can have fun gameplay without having to have a central core drive. So, bringing that idea into board games, my hat's off to these developers for doing it. That sounds really great. But then on top of that, there's also a really strong focus on asymmetrical characters, because each player, when you set up to try and help build the town of Mythwind, are playing a radically different game. And there were some people who covered this. Monique and Naveen did a great run through, if I recall correctly. I watched some folks' videos of it. It's interesting. The different characters have completely different gameplays. If you are the crafter player, you're playing a bag builder. Throwing stuff, trying to draw it out of the bag to be able to craft different items. If you're the farmer, you are playing a polyomino tile laying game as you try to raise crops and feed the people of your growing town. If you're the merchant, I'm not quite sure what this one is. I kind of get the impression it's maybe an engine builder or some kind of hand management game. They don't really say much about it. When it was live on Kickstarter, they mostly, all the demos focused on the farmer and the crafter. Obviously, those were the furthest along in development. The fourth character is the woodsman, who seems like they're some kind of adventurer going off out into the woods. And again, playing some completely different game, because they've got an exploration deck and a scouting deck that they're dealing with. While the merchant has, order cards, so it's probably like a recipe fulfillment thing. And what I'm very excited about is the potential for players who are playing radically different games to have my game help your game, because this is cooperative. We're all working to the betterment of Mythwind. So if I'm growing the crops that will help you fulfill the recipes you need as a merchant, I look forward to seeing how radically different games can all dovetail into the same common goal. I absolutely love that. I love the fact there's emerging narrative, that drop in and drop out play. You could play one time with your friends and they'd never have to play again, because the game is just, it's like that. You can jump in, you can play solo for a while. I love everything about the freewheeling nature of this, and I cannot wait to see how they pull it off. But more than anything else, I'm very excited about the asymmetrical gameplay, because everybody's, ever since Root came out, although before that there was Vast, and there's been a few more, these games that everybody's so excited about because players are playing radically different games. I love that idea, but I don't want to do it in a dudes on a map game where we're trying to kill each other, which is where the majority of the success in this new growing asymmetrical, hey, everybody's playing their own game genre has come. Last year we had Free Radicals, which I absolutely loved. And I would have loved Merchant's Cove, because it was another game where everybody plays their own game, but it had a really cutthroat thing that tied everybody together. This has a wonderful communal drive that pulls everybody together, and that is much more enticing for me, which is why Mythwind comes in as my number 2 most anticipated game of the year. And finally, folks, my number 1. Hey, if there's an Uwe... Oh, gosh darn it. Sorry, folks. If there's a new Uwe Rosenberg game coming, I want to check it out. And so I have been paying a lot of attention to Oranienburger Canal ever since it was crowdfunding on some German crowdfunding site last year. And I guess it was successful. It's from Uwe Rosenberg, the publisher Spielworks. And it's a solo or 2-player only game, and what really got my attention more than anything else, folks, if you ever want to know about games, if you're trying to anticipate, don't pay attention to me as a data point or any other channel. Go to Board Game Geek, click on the comments, and then start looking at all the comments of people who have played them. Look at the high-ranked comments, look at the low-ranked comments, and try to get an idea. But I gotta say, when one of these and then turn comments on, of course, has comments. Oh, was it a 9? There we go. Lovelace here in Hamburg, Germany, who has played it. I'm probably at Essen or something like that. Maybe one of Uwe's most brain-burning games yet. Easy to learn, a lot of planning. That gets my excitement up. Uwe Rosenberg's most brain-burnery game to date, and it's a 2-player only game about building the Oranienburger Canal in, what town is it? I'm trying to remember. I want to say Brandenburg. Was that right? Yeah, Brandenburg. Now, let's see, there's not much in the way of videos or images, but there was actually one, I think, particularly good image of some folks playing it at Essen Spiel that I think does a pretty good job of capturing what makes this interesting. It's hard, it's a worker placement game, and we've seen this from Uwe Rosenberg a lot. Honestly, I don't think the worker placement is going to do anything particularly new or novel or groundbreaking, but that's okay, because what's really all about is grabbing the cards that represent the different industries you're trying to build up in Brandenburg, But as you get all the resources to build these cards, they just sit there. They don't actually activate and do their special ability until one of two things happens. Until you completely surround them and by linking them into the transportation network by either building roads or canals. Because this is historically one of the big things. This was one of the big architectural drives of this era was this super canal that just, turned the city into the Venice of Germany. I don't know. So you're either trying to make canal spread or road spread that both have different requirements for transportation of goods. So once you get a particular building you've built completely surrounded on your board, it will activate once. It'll do its power once. Then you want to activate again. And to do that, there's a separate network you're trying to connect it to, because in addition to surrounding all the buildings you've built, all the industries you've built with the infrastructure for transportation, you also have to link them up to other buildings via bridges. Apparently that's a big deal in Brandenburg, is the bridges of Brandenburg. So I need to connect this if I want this to activate a second time and get its power second time, I need to connect it up to other buildings with the bridges on top of the other. And that just sounds really cool to me. I'm really, really digging this core idea. And hey, if it's one of Uwe Rosenberg's crunchiest games ever, according to one random reporter on Board Game Geek, well, you better know I want to be there with bells on when I finally get my hands on my number one most anticipated game of the year, Oranienburger Canal with a K. Okay, folks. All right, let's take a break. Oh, my goodness. Oh, how am I doing, folks? Let's see here. Why can't I find my buttons? I need to mark that was the end of that. Whew. Everything going okay? Did that make any sense? Now, I didn't tell you, folks. I did tell you up front I'm doing 2 lists today. Oh, my hot honey water has gotten cold. It's not as effective as it was a second ago. Anyway, though, let's take a break. Oh, my goodness. I am just so clammy. But, hopefully, would you say I'm keeping the energy level up high enough? I hope so. Let's see here. Looks like you folks have just been happy to watch. Not much chatting. I always notice that. There's chatting until I actually start doing the show. And then the chat always just goes away. I guess because you're listening to me or because you get up and walk around and do other stuff in your house and listen to me. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, that was one of 2 lists. And now the other list is going to be a top 10 of games that I have already played. Yeah, let's see. So do I have that? Yes, I do, but that means I now have to switch because since I played them and I've filmed them, I've got video. So I have to change the browser view to that browser view, and then I need to make it full screen. And spoiler alert, the first one I'm going to talk about is Rolling Heights. Okay, cool. All right, let's get that banner. We're not talking about that canal anymore with the impossible to say word. So number 15 is Rolling Heights. And you might say 15, wait, I thought you said I was going to do 10. Here's the deal, folks. I've already done numbers 1 through 5 of this list with Chris when we did our top 10 crowdfunding games of 2022. So I've actually got a top 15 games I have played, and I'm doing numbers 15 through 6, and then numbers 5 through 1 will be in this other video that I will point people to when I actually when I get to editing all this stuff together afterwards. Let's go on ahead and check my email and see if my missing contributor has contributed. I sent them an email this morning. Send receive. Nope, doesn't look like it. Wait, nope. They have replied. I said, hey, you getting this to me today? And they said, yazzer. Oops. Hey, that's, what just happened? Why did that happen? Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I see why that happened. Okay. So, I know what I'm doing this afternoon. These are so much nicer. But, okay, folks, if I'm sucking on this, is that I assume it has the potential to be like, I can hear it obviously really loud clanking in my cheeks and whatnot. And I worry it'll make me like kind of smack my lips a little bit more. So, let's see. Let's just take, hey, you know what we didn't do, folks? We started without doing a battle royale. So let's take a break and do a very low-key, relaxed battle royale. Hey, apparently Saturdays is not a good time to stream because I am not getting the normal numbers that we get for turnout. That's okay. That's just the way the cookie crumbled. New Year's Eve was on a Saturday. Nothing I could do about it. I wonder I'm curious. Should I have done this later in the day? Should I have done this? I mean, I could have done this at midnight. Although, I mean, if I'm feeling more healthy, I could have. But anyway, sorry. Let's see here. I mean, I know for some of you, probably is New Year's Eve right now if you're watching in Europe and, further afield. Let's see. Battle Royale. Let's go. I'm just all over the place. All right. Is it starting? Yes, it is. Oh, you're so good, Mom. Thank you. All right. I'm going to do more of a golfers type running commentary of this particular battle, wherein I point out that, for starters, I throw down with hero logic and get stabbed in the back by Fire Windows 4. Fire will not let me go. I'm just trying to get away, but he is bound and determined. Wow, I'm down to 50% health already. I finally turn and face my attacker, and then we part ways. Once again, I throw down with hero logic, and I get a backstab on the hero himself. But not before hero logic can take out AG Fox. Sorry, AG Fox. Perhaps we could have allied. All right. Okay, right, me and Goblin throwing down, and then I finish off Goblin. Wow, I'm making a comeback. But I think King Engine 1 has got my name with his dual-wielding swords, but not before Richardson takes me down. And then King Engine 1, well, actually, they go their merry way. We're down to Feld, Orchard, and King Engine. It's anybody's game, but if Orchard gets that health pack, and nope, he says, I don't need it, randomly. So, they've decided to fight to the death. No weapons. Just cute, cuddly little folks. Orchardson and Feldpan, and I think Feldpan takes it. Yes, they do. And that was it, folks. Not quite the same if I'm not shouting, is it? But that's okay. Still good fun. Alrighty. Oh no, Priscilla! No! Yes, that's true. I believe there's some kind of timeout that if you're not relatively active in the chat, after a certain amount of time, your avatar just disappears. And then it comes back when you chat. So, oh no, this could have been your day, Priscilla. There you are. I see you all sparkly with your Velma hair and your super sword and your palette. But your time to shine, you were MIA. You were late to the party. Sorry. Oh, man. Well, I think I have to take that because I'm really kind of obsessed with it now. Alrighty. So anyway, folks. So now I'm going to start the other. Here's the other thing that's interesting, which I will talk about in when I do my main intro. One of the things I plan on saying is something like, hey, I know, folks. First of all, if you watch my top 10, you're going to think, hey, where's all the heavy games? Because it's mostly, the 10 I just told you about were all kind of, except for a couple of them, kind of, medium or lighter weight games. All the heavy games are in this list. Big, crunchy, meaty Euros that go deep with all kinds of cool mechanisms. So that's what we're about to talk about in the second top 10. Although, again, it's numbered 15 to number 6 because of the weirdness. I wonder if I should do that. Yeah, I'll do it. Most because I want to give people who watch this on YouTube the reason to say, oh, well, okay, now I want to see number 5 to number 1. I'll go watch this other video that he talked about. Plus, because hopefully that means more people see Chris George and they say, oh, I like that guy, and they subscribe to his channel. Because I don't think he's going to make it, but I know he had some kind of big thing that if he could hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, that he was going to do something crazy on the channel. I don't remember what. Or no, he was going to give away a copy of Oathsworn for some reason, if I recall correctly. I think that's what it was. But if we go to YouTube, board or room and board reviews. Where are we? There we go. Is that it? Yes. If we go to check him out. He is at 9.26. So, yeah, I think he's got 700 more subscribers to go. So, I don't think he's going to get 700 subscribers today. But again, I've been subscribed to him for a long time, and I think he is fantastic. I can't recommend him enough. I wish I'd been subscribed to him sooner because I would have known about Earth, and it wouldn't have been such a surprise to me when he told me about it when we collaborated when Rel was MIA. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Okay, but that's my plan. Try to lure people to the video I did with Chris so they'll be lured to his channel so he will get more subscribers and have more success up in this snowy Great White North. Okay. So, there we go. Room and Ward, did I say something else? Akidral? If so, I apologize. Let's see here. Just looking at your guys' chats for a bit. Looks like, okay, everything's going fine. Nothing I need to address necessarily. I see Goblin's thrown a couple of questions in, so maybe we'll have a very short Q&A afterwards. We'll see. I feel like I'm holding up okay. I mean, honestly, just talking about games does kind of get my energy up, and I tend not to notice that my bones ache and all of that. And I don't know, does my voice sound funny? It sounds really weird in my head, but I think I'm doing okay. So we're just going to do this 10, and then we'll see if there's any Q&A you folks would want to do. And then after that, you can auld lang syne it for the rest of the day. Sound good? Did anybody comment on this? Let me see if anybody commented on if that was making obnoxious noises. Let me scroll back up. Let's see. I was still filming there. Somebody mentioned Ubar. I don't know where Ubar is, Goblin. I am curious. I'm honestly, I'm just assuming it's something they made up because it's whimsical and fantastical, type stuff with floating ships and dragon tails and such. Let's see. Battle Royale. I do not see anybody saying anything one way or the other about that sound, which obviously I was just exaggerating there for effect. But you know what? Still, I just want to take a chance. So I'll put this aside. I'll take one last sip. Or actually, I shouldn't, because the menthol is probably stronger. All right, anyway, though. So we're good to go. We're doing another countdown. Oops, make that go away. Put the warning up there. And, and some more folks are showing up. Folks, if you're just now showing up, you're in time for my second of 2 lists of most anticipated games for 2023. This is going to be a list of games that I have already played, and so I speak with some authority as to how good they are. And, right, without any further ado, let's see. Let's get going. So again, I will have come back to full screen like this, and right, so yeah, I'll have to do that. Control S, and then click over here as quick as I can to make the transition work. Alrighty. So, okay. Oh man, I'm feeling a bit froggy now. Hold on. Sorry, folks. Oh, this must be really great for the podcast listeners later on who will be listening to this while they're driving their cars and whatnot. Nothing but the best gross throat Foley sound for you folks. Anyway, all right, so here we go. All right, folks, and number 15 on the list. Ugh, I pushed the wrong button. Oh, I am not in my A game today, and the Control S didn't work. Why didn't the Control S work? Why isn't that appearing? Oh, that's right, because I turned the banner off for this screen. I have to turn the banner back on now. So I got it wrong anyway. All right, there we go. There it is. Right, so now turn the banner back off. Be ready to Control S it to appear. Mark it again. Okay, folks, and now for this top 15 that I've already played, I'm going to start at number 15 with Rolling Height. Oh, because you're not highlighted. Ugh. Okay. I know how to do this. I've done this 100 times. Just calm down. Okay. Sorry, folks. I appreciate I am not quite as bouncy and dynamic as I normally am. But I'm getting through. We are going to get this thing done. What is the button? I need to push that button. Okay. One more time. All right, folks, and let's start with number 15 on the list, Rolling Heights, which is a very, very cool SimCity style game from designer John D. Clare, who, most famously did Mystic Vale, but a whole bunch of other games beside. I mean, he's really known as the card crafting guy, but after this, maybe he'll be known as the rolling meeple guy, because the coolest element of this game is, rather than rolling dice or rolling cards to see what our construction crews can do to help us build up the best city of Rolling Heights, we literally roll our worker meeples into a little box. And depending on whether they lie down or they're standing on their heads or they're standing up, they can do more or less work. And I just got to say, that is an adorable joy that does not get old, rolling meeples. This is not the first game to do rolling meeples, but it does it so well. So anyway, I have played this. Jen and I played this, and I went into it assuming, oh yeah, this is going to be a fun little trifle of a game, a light SimCity type thing with a neat little gimmick. What really makes this game sing is not the rolling meeples into the box. It is the city building, because this has got to be one of the richer, crunchier. This isn't quite up there with urban sprawl necessarily, but this has got a lot more going on than most similar SimCity-inspired board games. And Jen and I were really impressed by it, in large part because of the physicality of the game. As you build taller and taller skyscrapers, they are literally physically bigger on the board, and that just has a really great table presence. But the game comes with so many different variable objective elements to the game, just overflowing with them. Every time you play this game, you're going to get a very different feel as you're pushed to expand or build in different ways. And again, very, very impressive design. Jen and I really were very much in love with it, and I cannot wait for the final, number 15 on the list, Rolling Heights. Then let's go on to number 14. Alderman. Now, this is a crunchy game. This might be the heaviest game that Jen and I played in 2022. In fact, it's kind of lower on my list because it's almost maybe a little bit too heavy for Jen when it boils right down to it. But don't get me wrong, folks. Everything on this list. I mean, I played almost 200 games last year. So to make it into my to this short list, these are all absolutely phenomenal. I stand by them because we played them all quite a bit. But anyway, what is Alderman about? We are members of the Hanseatic League trying to sail around the Baltic Sea and, buy low and sell high, basically, and then get back to our home port and invest in the building up of the city of Lubeck to score sweet, sweet victory points. Now, the core gameplay is very simple. On your turn, you're generally usually just going to move your ship that represents you from one city to an adjacent city and then activate the powers of those cities. And then on your next turn, you're going to do it again. Move to another city and activate power. And that sounds really simple, but what ultimately ends up evolving is, okay, I know the next 3 cities I need to go to, because if I go to that city, I'll get this. If I go to this city, I'll get that. And then all that stuff, I'll be able to, at the third city, 3 turns from now, I'll be able to deliver all that and get the huge payday. But the thing is, this world is constantly in flux. You have to move it, sometimes paying extra to go faster than you normally would, because the cities themselves can change. If players get enough influence in a given city, that will change what the city produces and what the city wants. And not only that, there's this very, very cool goods production wheel that determines what all the different cities are producing. And so, hey, at one point, that city might be producing fish, but by the time you get there, there's no more fish to be had. And so you've really got so much crunch going on. And the thing is, this game is so meaty, you can really be planning 5, 6, 7 turns in advance. Okay, I know I need to get over there to the far, far east. I'm way over here in London. Right, so if I stop there, then there, then there, then there. But what if that changes? Because that's about to change. Well, okay, if I stop there, the other thing you could do would be that. And this is the big problem we had with it. Jen found she was making such big, huge combo chains in her head to try to play at peak efficiency. It was a little overwhelming. Now, me, I loved it. I'm very much a bird in the hand instead. Forget about the 2 birds in the bush. Who knows what will happen? And so, I mean, for me, the game just flowed really nice and smooth. Hey, what's available to me right where I am as opposed to what's on the other side of the world that I'm trying to work my way towards. But I do warn you, folks, if you're interested in Alderman, check out my run-through. Links for the run-throughs of all of these are in the show notes down below. And you can get a sense for, whether it will trigger AEP, analysis paralysis, in you the same way it did in my wife. But, man, there is so much to love about this game. It's not the prettiest looking game I've ever seen, but it is one of the best, really crunchy, buy low, sell high, economic Euro simulations out there. It is number 14, Alderman. Okay, then let's go on to number 13, Frozen Frontiers. Now, this is from Alderac. No, not Alderac. This is from Arcane Wonders and their publishing partner, Cosmodrome. The same team that brought us Oh, Aquatica, which is one of the best engine building games in years. And this is a phenomenal game about trying to industrialize a planet out in deep space and send all those resources back to Earth to save humanity. And the core gameplay is very simple. On your turn, you're either going to move your processing ship once or maybe sometimes more spaces to an adjacent location, one of the growing cities on this alien planet, and either build new industry there or activate the industry that's already there, that's been built by you and very likely other players. As you might imagine, when you use the stuff of other players, they're very happy because they get nice passive income benefits. And so that is the core crux of the game. But what drives it is every turn, you've got a handful of cards, and when you are building, you're going to play a card. That card says what I can build, and it says where I should build it. Because if I can build the right power plant in the correct city, I will get the full benefit of that card. And that card will be unlocked as an ongoing special power I have for the rest of the game. But often, hey, I need to build this power plant right now, but the city is on the other side of the board, and it would be way too expensive for me to go over there. So I will just instead build it right now, not get the extra bonus on the card, but whenever that happens, instead you get subsidy bonuses from Earth, which come in a variety of different options as well. So this game is constantly deluging you with income from different sources so that you can smartly put it all together. And it's interesting, you track it on probably one of the most oddball resource tracking boards I've ever seen. And I'll be honest, that takes a bit of getting used to because it's negative space that represents what you actually have. Now, there's reasons for that because of how you manipulate all your goods and convert them into other things and whatnot. Long story short, the game is fantastic. It's no surprise considering the pedigree of the designer and the design house. It also features a very, very strong element of area control because the more people that build and commit to a given city, the more they stand to score. And the more I use a city that is mostly occupied by your buildings, the more I'm potentially letting you score at the end of the game if you end up controlling that city at the end of the game. So players are really interwoven with each other every step of the way in this very, very smart action game where it's all driven by these cards that just give you so much to noodle over, so much to crunch over that Jen and I really enjoyed it. Number 13. Frozen Frontiers. Then let's move on to number 12, Series, which I swear, folks, is a total coincidence that two games about setting up in industry on faraway exoplanets happen to show up. Oh, excuse me again, folks. Happen to show up right next to each other on the list. But this is a game all about mining the dwarf planet series in the asteroid belt in our solar system. So while the previous game was a little bit more forward thinking because it was like on the other side of a wormhole, more future tech, this one's kind of grounded in where we are in maybe 100 or 150 years from now. And it's a worker placement game that is very, very cool because there's two types of workers in this game. There's my workers, who I can basically use in my own neck of the woods to, trigger whatever it is that I want to do. Or wait, no. I've got this wrong. I've got it backwards. I was thinking of another game where there's two different workers. Okay, so there's two types of workers. There's the workers I can use, and then there is a communal pool of workers. The workers I can use, they go out to they work very much like traditional workers. Hey, if you go over to the power plant, again, power plants in space, who knew? If you go over to the power plant, I've occupied that space, now nobody else can occupy it, and the spaces dry up fast as we're trying to develop our mining industry. But then, every round, more workers, literal workers, little meeples, come from Earth on ships, and you can see them coming. So you, in a given round, you know what type of workforce is going to show up next round, and you're already planning for it, because that is a communal pool of workers, and they are a resource that you can use on your own board. You use you use your own workers on the public board, you use the communal workers on your private board, and that is so cool and so interesting. And really pushes you to have a lot of tension in ways that you don't normally see in worker placement games. I mean, there's the normal stuff of, oh, will I be able to do the action before it's all tied up? But the other ones of, hey, I can always do this action anytime I feel like it, but can I actually get the workers to do it? Because this type of worker is always drying off, but meanwhile, this type of worker placement space is always drying up. And trying to balance those two different pressures at once and try to outthink your opponent makes for a very sharp, puzzly game. From Artipia Games, it's a real return to form for one of my favorite publishers of all time. Number 12 on the list, series. Okay, now let's go on to number 11, Fate Forge, The Chronicles of Khan. And folks, most of the games I'm about to talk about on this list are big, crunchy, heavy economic simulation Euros. Not Fate Forge. This is big, exciting, expansive fantasy adventure. And I love it because this does stuff. It's working in the same genre as a lot of games these days. Ever since Gloomhaven came out, whatever it was, 5 or 6 years ago, there are so many publishers out there trying to make their own Gloomhaven. A big box full of expansive narrative campaigns that you play through lots of different scenarios and level up your characters and try to get that old classic long-term multi-session role-playing game feel, but in board game form. A lot of people are pursuing that, following in the footsteps of Gloomhaven and now Frosthaven. Fate Forge is in that same milieu, but they do things so differently than everybody else. Because this game, most of these games are generally, hey, following the Fate Forge formula, about 80% combat and 20% other stuff, interacting with people in town and doing story stuff and leveling up your characters. This game, it's more like 50-50. And the reason for that is because combat in this game is incredibly fast and fluid, and there's no better word for it, cinematic. Because when you come in, when the story says, hey, well, you enter the swamps and you get attacked by bandits or whatever, you can very quickly, like in less than a minute, set up the board because they're built of very simple pieces, put all the bad guys out, and you are up and running in no time. And that fight between you and the bandits in the swamp or in the sewers or the dark alleys or wherever it might be is going to be done in less than 20 minutes. You're just going to be in and out. It's going to be nothing but high stakes, really, really fast-paced action driven by dice. It's kind of a dice worker placement. I have my dice. They're all special custom-faced dice that you can use to activate your different powers. And every turn, you are trying to puzzle out what is the best way to use my dice to backflip and fire 3 arrows while I'm still in the air and pin somebody to the wall and all kinds of just cool, fun, like fantasy superhero stuff. Like this game makes you feel like Legolas at peak Legolas. I'm talking about Hobbit Legolas, not Lord of the Rings, when Legolas was literally doing insane, impossible stuff. This game gives you that feel that you are literally a fantasy superhero, just cutting through the bad guys like butter, and it's so fun and cool and satisfying, and again, it just feels really cinematic. While still being smart, because it's all driven by the same dice system that, from the same developer designer, Gordon Kalea, what was it called? Vengeance. Vengeance was a bigger, crunchier, more robust game all about, kind of reliving a revenge flick from the 70s or 80s. This is high fantasy, set in the Fate Forge universe, which apparently is a very successful pen and paper RPG system, but you can watch my run through. You can watch run through for all of these to get a better sense for what it's like. But when I think about this, I think it's just so exciting that, in a given 2-hour session of this, we might have 3 big epic conflict sessions instead of 1, because it's just always going, and it's just a blast. And it is number 11 on the list, Fate Forge, Chronicles of Khan. Now, let's go on to number 10. Back to the crunchy Euros, folks. It is Darwin's Journey from Simone Luciani and the story Manticore, I believe. No, story. I might be getting your name wrong. I apologize. But anyway, this is a worker placement game where we are kind of trying to follow in the footsteps of Darwin, visiting all the same islands he visited on the Beagle, studying the flora and fauna, trying to make observations, engaging in correspondence with scientists from around the world, and scoring lots of points along the way. So already, I very much enjoy the subject matter. I mean, this is really, Darwin the Euro, basically. You really get to feel like, in Euro game mechanisms, this is me, living that life, changing the world. So that's all very cool. But that's theme. The gameplay is equally cool because it is a worker placement game that does some very cool stuff. You start out with a few assistant workers and several different worker placement spots on the board. But each of your workers has one particular area of expertise, whether they are good at exploring or sailing or corresponding or investigating or whatever it is. So if I want to play my green worker, because green is the color for exploration, there are some things, some worker placement spots, he literally cannot do because he just doesn't know how to do that stuff. But there's other things where, if he does this particular action, he'll get bonuses. So the interesting thing about this game is you start with these workers, you can get more workers, but more importantly, over the course of the game, you train your workers to get access to different abilities. And I really love that investment idea. These workers literally on your cards have pictures. So you start to get a real sense of connection with them in a way that generally does not happen in games where you're just sending your little meeples around. Even Agricola, which is so thematic and a poor struggling family about to starve, I do not feel a connection with them the same way I feel a connection with these because I can see them. I got a picture of them. I wish I had names for them too, but I can make up my own names. But anyway, so they all have special abilities. They all have strengths and weaknesses, and over the course of the game, you can invest in them to get more strengths to offset their weaknesses. And I love that. Because worker placement games, I think, are so successful amongst Euro-style games because the worker is a conduit for you to kind of project yourself into the world. Most Euros, you're completely an abstract entity just moving resources from one place to another. In a worker placement game, that's my buddy, I see them. So a game that doubles down on that and really makes them characters who you can kind of connect with and invest in, that really elevates things to the next level. And then, and I'm just scratching the surface. The worker placement action spots also change and evolve over the course of the game, which is very, very cool, in different ways every time. Also, this game has one of the best player scaling for two-player systems I have seen since Year of the Dragon from Stefan Feld. And all other worker placement games should study this to know how to do it right, to make a game that was designed for more players to work brilliantly at two. This game is fantastic. It's been a long time coming. I covered it a couple of years ago on Kickstarter, but I think it's finally coming out in 2023, which is why it comes in at number 10 on the list. Darwin's Journey. Okay, let's go on to number 9. Ahau, Rulers of Yucatan. And another big crunchy thing. And one thing I really should say about this game that I was very impressed. The developers worked very, very hard with, professors and scholars and even the indigenous people of the Yucatan. They actually got a scribe of ancient Incan language, who is still alive today, to be a contributor to this game to make sure that they really nailed the verisimilitude and, weren't taking liberties with, this cultural heritage that they were trying to represent. And first of all, I just want to doff my cap to them for that. But all that aside, how does the game play? It's very, very cool. Because on the surface, it kind of almost feels like an area control game. You've got all these different regions in the Yucatan, and every round, each player is going to simultaneously play 2 cards. One card says, where do I want my ruler to go? Which region? And they're all numbered 1 through 5, I think, or 1 through 6 or something like that. And the other card I play is, how badly do I want to go there? Because it's like an initiative speed card. So if I try to go to area 5 and I play to 2 and you play to 3, I'm sorry, you can't get there because I got there first. Kind of a thing. Very Gloomhaven initiative style thing, which I always love whenever I see it. But the interesting thing about this game is you can only go to any given region once in a round. So sometimes you will be desperate to go to a region a second time, and you can't go there because you've already played that card. Here's one way you could do it. Go to an adjacent region that you think I'm going to go to and play a low initiative so that you will get kicked out. You want to get kicked out by me so that you can hopefully bump to where you need to go. And I love that. I've often talked about worker placement bumping as a really great mechanism. This is, I guess, kind of an offshoot of that, and it's so cool. And honestly, I am just talking about one of the dozen, or at least half a dozen, different gameplay mechanisms that all comes together here. A big part of what we're doing is harvesting resources to build up these pyramids in this wonderfully puzzly side element, or you could ignore that and focus more on area control of the main board, because we're trying to get more of our followers in all the cities around the Yucatan, although we end up spending them to do other stuff, so we kind of lose our grip on area control. Everything about this game is fantastic. Oh, and then one more thing. This game is so overloaded with great ways for players to interact with each other. there are these wonderful little pyramids that are randomly generated every time you play that have objectives on them. And if I get enough influence on that, then I'm going to score that particular objective. But I'm not going to score that objective on how well I harvest that resource or build that thing. I'm going to score that objective based on, however, the best player in the game does it. So all of a sudden, if I see somebody's doing really good at pyramid building, then maybe I want to be an investment in pyramid building, not because I did a great job of it, but because you did. And that stuff is so neat. There are a lot of very, very cool ideas, all driven by an incredibly tension-filled core action selection mechanism that I really adored, as did Jen, which is why we've got it at number 9, Ahua, Rulers of the Yucatan. Okay, then let's go on to number 8, Collab. Which is CO capital LAB, I believe is the way it's spelled. And that is obviously short for collaboration. And this is a Frankenstein's monster, mad scientist, experiment, worker placement style game with some of the best, most charming art I have ever seen. I do not know who the artist on this game is, but man, I need to see their art in more stuff, because every card for every science experiment that you try to engage in is just gorgeous and incredibly warm and charming too. I absolutely love the look of the game, but that's not what makes the game so special. This is a worker placement game. Where I've got 2 types of workers. I've got my main scientist, my mad scientist, well, I have my own special powers, and then I've got my minions, and I can send myself out or my minions out. The interesting thing is my minions are actually powered by dice. I have to plug these dice into my little minion worker, send them out. That indicates, what they're going to be able to do out in the world. But here's the thing. Once I put a minion out into the world, onto the board, and they're sitting there, they are available to everybody. Because what we want to do as our mad scientists, we want to actually place ourselves in the labs, whereas the minions go into the hallways between the labs. So if I place a minion between the orange and the purple laboratory, that minion can help me or you or anybody else if you send your main scientist to the purple or the orange laboratory. And so I might have gone there because I needed the benefit that my minion gave me, but that was the last thing you needed. Suddenly I need to change all my plans and go to that purple lab because that last extra minion lets me finish what I needed to do. And so this is a game of collaboration. You are constantly sending your own minions out there to try to complete your own stuff, but also paying attention to what your opponent does as well. And it's just wonderfully done. Really, really sharp. The thing that makes this game so special, I love the fact that they literally put it in the title. This is a competitive game of collaboration, and it's great. It looks fantastic, plays fantastic, and I suggest everybody take a look at it when it comes out in 2023. Number 8, Collab. Okay, now let's talk about number 7, Copan, Dying City. Which, by the way, is another game where the developers did their due diligence and spoke with academics and cultural experts and brought them on board to make the game a more well-rounded experience. So again, my hat's off to them. I just want to keep shouting praises until it just becomes the norm, and it's just something everybody does. Because if you're going to try to represent a culture in your board game, why not give back to that culture by having them help you make the game better? Fantastic, and I'm glad that they were able to do it with Copan Dying City. But what is the game itself? It is about the final days of the Incan Empire. We are in Copan, the center of the empire. It is a dying city. And it's interesting. At the beginning of the game, it's a worker placement game where, like some of the other ones I mentioned today, we have a single worker. And in the early game, there are resources aplenty. And whatever you do, you're just constantly bringing in resources because we're at the height of the empire. Everything is great. And you can achieve any kind of goals you want very quickly. But over the course of the game, as round after round passes, more and more worker placement spaces get compromised or shut down because the Incan Empire is dying. We are in its waning days. And so what starts out as a big smorgasbord, do whatever you want, wherever you want, when you want, as the game goes on, things get tighter and more constricted. And stuff that was easy at the beginning of the game becomes all but impossible to do by the end of the game. And that is such a cool reversal on what is by far the standard arc of a Euro, where you start out small and you end up big. Here, you start out huge. The world is your oyster, but by the end of the game, you can barely rub two sticks together as you're desperately trying to finish those last few objectives. And I think that is such a cool, interesting twist. I enjoy it for that. But then I also enjoy it as a worker placement game because, like I said, I've got one worker that represents me. If I send myself to one of the, I think it's like 5 or 6 different locations on the board, the thing is, I'm not committing myself to just doing that action once, but doing it 3 times in a row. Because if I do an action once, I get a weak version of it. On my next turn, if I stay there and do it a second time, I'll get a better version. And on my third turn in a row, successively, if I stay there again, I'll get the really super action. And so this game requires a lot more long-term planning because, you know what? I might not care about the first or second. Am I going to effectively kind of take myself offline for 2 turns so I can get that really big one? But, oh my gosh, another space opened up over there. I really need to jump over there, but I haven't made it to the top of the one I'm already working on. Excuse me again. So cool. This game is chock-a-block full of really fun ideas, great thematic presentation, respectfully done, and I recommend it. Number 7 on the list, Copan, Dying City. Folks, but now let's talk about number 6. Oh, this one is even better. Jian Nang, Life of Gentry. And now, this is set in Far East Asia. I forget what time, kind of a Renaissance era, before the Age of Industrialization, if I recall correctly. One of the older dynasties. I'd have to go back and look up. I should go back and look it up, but I don't have time, and I'm very under the weather. So, but folks, I mentioned all of that if you go check out the run-through itself. But what is it? This is, what would you call it? I guess you call it a bag building game because I have a bag full of chips. And at the beginning of a round, I'm going to draw 4 of those chips out of the bag, and I'm going to place them above my board. And each chip has 2 actions. And on my turn, I am going to pick one of those chips to do whatever the top action is. And that's basically kind of the equivalent of a worker placement. My wife just came in with more. Oh, thank you, honey pie. The other stuff went very cold. Oh, we interrupt this number 6, folks, for some honey tea brought in by Jen. Thanks, honey. Oh, my goodness. Oh, what was I talking about? Okay. Alrighty. Right. So, I activate the top action, which basically means I get to activate, the market or the countryside or the rich gentry or whatever it is. And each different action lets you do different things. But we are artisans in this game. Our job is to make the greatest works of art, whether it is literal paintings or poetry, or was the third one songs, if I recall correctly? Or maybe, no, it's poetry and drama, putting on dramatic productions, poetry, and art. And the thing is, the wants and needs of the people of Jianyang are changing all the time. I mean, there's kind of like a pop culture element to this game. Hey, for the next couple of years, it looks like paintings might be hot, and I should really go into paintings. But based on choices players make, it might be, oh, you know what? Paintings didn't turn out to be quite so hot after all, and I made the wrong investments. There's this really, really cool system that kind of tracks what is popular in the culture of the time. But back to the original action selection. So anyway, I pick one of my chips, any of the 4 that are up there, to do the top action. But 2 chips are going to get spent in a given turn. One of them I keep, and it's going to go back in the bag to be used later. The other one, whichever one is furthest to the right of all my chips, gets removed from the game, gets destroyed. But I get the bottom action on it, which is some kind of idea, or it's the resource. Our resources are inspiration for art, drama, and poetry, if I recall correctly. So every turn, you are going to do one action and harvest one resource. But while you're choosing that, you are also picking one of your very limited chips that are in your bag that will get destroyed and removed from the game. And so that then, moving forward, is one less opportunity to do whatever was on the top of that chip. And maybe you say, hey, you know what? I'm really not going to go to the muse's house anymore. I can afford to let this chip go. But maybe that's part of your strategy, and you don't want to let that go, but you really want to get that yellow inspiration it would give you if you let it get trashed. Now, over the course of the game, you will be able to get bigger, more powerful chips. So it's a good thing that you're replacing the old ones with new, bigger, powerful ones, but can you get the ones that fill in the shortcomings you might have based on the shifting cultural preferences of the city? And I love how all this comes together. It's really nice and thematic. That core mechanism for how to select actions is one of the coolest, freshest I've seen in a long time, and it is a big, crunchy, satisfying game. Man, I didn't even talk about the ships and how. Look, I could talk about this a lot more, but you can watch my run through to see more, folks. I'm going to stop right there at number 6, John Nan. Phew. Okay. Oops, that's the wrong button. That's the right button. Okay, folks. That was a list of 10 games. And now it's at this point that I'll tell the people watching on YouTube, if you want to see numbers 5 through 1, hit this button, go check out this run through with me and Chris, and you'll hear about a bunch of cool stuff. But there you go. I've been going for about an hour and a half, and I have given you 20 very cool games, 10 of which I can personally vouch for are fantastic, and those tended to be the heavy ones, and 10 of which are a bit lighter. Just a bit more fun, and it's interesting. I mean, I guess that's to be expected because you don't really start hearing about all the crunchy Euro-y stuff until midway through the year when publishers start talking about their Essen releases. So every year in my anticipated lists, it's always really kind of focused on lighter weight fare. But this year it was really nice to be able to talk about, hey, all these really big, heavy, crunchy ones that are coming too. Oh, Priscilla, thank you so much for noticing all of the butt that I just kicked. Thank you. Yeah, but I don't know how much more. Let's see. I see 3 questions that have come from people. I am refortified. This is nice and piping hot. This is, it's a lifesaver. Because I don't know if you noticed, folks, I was really starting to drag there at the end. I was really working hard to stifle those coughing fits. But that really saved me. Anyway, though, so let's answer a few questions. Okay, Goblin asks, this is about Vinitus? Oh, where was it? Divinus. Is it just Greek and Norse? No, I don't believe so. I believe there are. I looked at a few different videos, and when it was on Kickstarter, people who covered it, they only got the first couple missions, which really focus on Greek versus Norse. But I got the impression that Greek or Norse is going to win, and they're going to go up against somebody else, and so things will kind of evolve. I can't say that for sure because that's not on my list of games I actually played. As much as I would have loved to, I am so jealous of the challenge we got to cover. What was it? Divinus and Earth and Bot Factory. Although I've now got a copy of Bot Factory, so don't play the world's smallest violin for me. And Mythwind. I mean, those are several of the games that were on Kickstarter in 2022, but I just can't cover everything. I just can't do it. Anyway, though. No, I believe there will be other Pantheons, but you'd have to double check that. I'm sure they talk about that on the Kickstarter page. Alrighty, and then Goblin also asked a big old wordy question. Say that if you want to know what tech will take off, look at porn. They say that if you want to know what kind of technology will look at porn, yeah. If they're using it, it'll become everyday, which is why VR hasn't taken off. Asymmetric games started. I believe you can do VR porn, can you not? I'm pretty sure VR porn is a fairly big thing. Not that I would know, but I've heard lots of jokey references to it that you can basically act as if you're in a porn movie yourself, and all the acts are being done directly to you. I'm pretty sure that's the case. Although I think the problem is it's not easy to do because you have to know how to work it. I mean, you can't just say, I want to go to the Oculus store and download this porn app. You have to know websites to go to, and I don't know if you have to jailbreak your Oculus or something like that. But, yeah. So I guess maybe that is the problem, that it's not mainstream available. But anyway, continuing with Goblin's point, asymmetric games started in dudes on maps. They're now moving to other types of games. Do you think this same theory applies within board games? I assume you don't mean porn specifically. Look at what dudes on games are doing new, and that will be the next big thing. Is there something to that? All right, so you're saying dudes on a map, area control, skirmish battle-y type things, are they on the cutting edge? Well, it's interesting. Several of the games I talked about in my top 20 feature area control. Specifically, Divinus. I don't know about Earth. I assume Bot Factory. And let's see, I know for the ones I played, I know that Alderman does, Frozen Frontiers does, Ceres does. Darwin's Jury kind of, but not really, but Ahau definitely does. And Copan does as well. So, I mean, those were all examples. I mean, and I do think it's interesting. All those things. I mean, remember, that was 15 to number 6, and then I had number 5 to number 1. Number 5 to number 1, which I'll save you the trouble of going and checking the video, was Paradox Initiative, Delta, Shake That City, Unconscious Mind, and Globetrotting. None of those are area control. Unconscious Mind, maybe a little bit, but not really. And it's something that I have definitely noticed in 2022. When I was making, for last week, my top 10 of the year, I thought for sure Endless Winter was going to make it into my top 10. But after Jan and I played it again and realized, boy, have we just really started to have less enthusiasm for even light or even clever area control type stuff? Maybe we have. See, the thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, a couple of years ago when I played some of these games, they were still like, okay, area control, if it's done in a Care Bear friendly-ish way, but I am kind of wondering if it's just becoming harder and harder for me to jam. But the thing is, the reason it keeps coming in is because it is by far the easiest, simplest thing that a designer can do to put in player interaction, because there are so many players out there who insist that, oh, I am not playing a game unless I'm hurting you in some way. So it's a way that they can, in a fairly Euro-friendly kind of way, because it's a soft player versus player stuff. Whoever has the most here gets points, and whoever has less gets less points. So, I mean, I think you find it in a lot of really great games because it's a really great way to scratch a particular itch that a certain portion of the board game industry or the board game playing populace wants. Now, does that make it like porn in that it's an indicator of future trends? I don't know. I don't know if it's so much a feature of the system as opposed to an offshoot of it, if that makes sense. Interesting question, though. And then, let's see, we have Orchardson. Where can we get Oranienburg Canal now that the crowdfund is over? I do not believe you can late back it, and I believe you're just going to have to wait for it to come out to retail. And let's see. Well, let's actually just take a look. Let's take a look. I did not think, really, to look at that very much. Right. Oranienburger Canal. Come back over to the browser. Let's see. Normally, if I ever have that question, my first thought is go look in the forums. Because chances are, any question you have, there are other people asking that question too. Hey, look at this. Here's the answer to your question. Thread that was posted on December 19th. Retail pre-order. They ordered it from Board Game Bliss. There doesn't appear to be any place else in North America you can pre-order the game. And the Spielworks, apparently, if you want this game, folks, you might want to definitely pre-order it because they generally only print 1,000 copies. Let's see. But, yeah. So, here's one person who's done the looking, and apparently there is one store you could pre-order it from now. But I imagine we're probably still quite a ways off from it coming out. So, it'll probably be available for more pre-orders when it gets closer to retail. But yeah, it's too late. I don't think you can probably do a post-campaign late pledge backer now. But I don't really know. But anyway, so that was that. Boop. And look at that, folks. The queue is empty. You folks have no questions for me. And that's okay. Because normally I try to make it till 2, but I don't have to make it till 2 today. Let me just go ahead and scroll and see if any kind of questions came up. Because normally I read the comments after the video is over and then just direct reply to people. Oh, that is a very good point, Scott. Often you will find... Oh, oops, I don't need to have the... you will find Spielworks games for sale at the Board Game Geek store. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if they end up picking this up. I mean, heck, can you pre-order it there right now? Now I'm curious. Board Game Geek store. Although I don't think they do pre-orders necessarily. Let's see. I'm here. I'm going to do a search for the word canal. And nope, it's not there yet. But I'd be willing to bet that Scott is right, and you'll be able to get it from there. And honestly, that's where I would recommend you get it from, because then you're supporting Board Game Geek, because a small percentage of that sale helps keep the greatest website on the internet running. So that's a good idea, Scott. Good call, sir. Let's see here. If I scroll up, people saying, that looks nice, that looks cool. People trying to catch the stars. Oh, yeah, it is. I am surprised, Scott, that Oranienburg Canal is only a 2-player game. Because it doesn't look like it needs to be. it's just worker placement. And I would just think they could have just, I mean, it's weird. They do this very weird thing where I don't have workers. Instead, there is a stack of discs. 5 of them, I think. And the top one is golden. The other ones are all nude. And so I take, as the first player, I take my stack of discs and put it on an action and do that action. Then it's your turn. You take that stack of discs minus the bottom one. So you take the top 4 out of the stack of 5 and move that to an action you want to do. So 1 disc remains on the board for the sole purpose of indicating nobody can go there again. And then I go and I take the top 3 and move it someplace else. And just make it a bigger stack, right? I don't know. It kind of struck me as weird but I'm sure Uwe has his reasons for it to not be. But I mean, heck, I don't mind. Honestly, I look at that as another feather in its cap because that means its 2-player gameplay is probably going to be really spot on since that's where the majority of the focus was. Oh, good to know, Firewind, that you don't mind the what's its. Although just because you don't mind it. I mean, you're not listening to this. I have definitely gotten feedback from people who listen to the podcast who, once upon a time, I smacked my lips way too much. So that's why I always keep this here so I can stay hydrated. Mostly because as your mouth goes dry, you start smacking your lips and whatnot. Let's see. Yeah. So anyway, it looks like that's it, folks. So I am just going to see if there is anybody that we could raid. Last week, it was impossible trying to find somebody to raid on a Saturday, which just goes to tell me, live streaming on a Saturday afternoon, not a good idea, apparently. But thank you all for showing up. And remember, tomorrow, because after I'm done with this, I'm going to go take a nap, and then I'm going to edit all the contributors in. So the thing that will go up on the YouTubes tomorrow will have Shay, Kimberly, Ryan, Ruel, Amy, Maggie, Grant, and Paulo. So 8 additional most anticipated games. And I will give my feed. I don't even know what they've sent me their videos, all but one of them. Maybe it's here by now. So you'll definitely want to check that out as well because they tend to pick the different things than me. I tend to really stay in my niche as it happens. Let's see. Oh, I forgot. This interface is terrible for being able to find anything. Let me come back over just to Twitch. That, and then search for board games. And let's see what we've got here. Right, board games. Click on that. So, it's your role. A New Year's Eve stream. So that looks nice. I don't know who DaveTube is. What are they doing? Looks like they're playing. It's husband and wife, DivTube, and playing board games, and it looks like they're playing some kind of party game with the audience. I don't know what, so that could be good. So that's a good candidate. New Year's Eve extravaganza. Oh, TLN. No wonder nobody is here. It's the TLN. Oh my God, Paul. Well, why didn't you tell me, man? Why didn't you tell me, folks? My partner on the R&R show doesn't keep me filled in on all the different elements of his life because every month he and the Brothers Murph organize this epic 24-hour live stream board game marathon called Tabletop Live Network, TLN. And they're deep into it, so that is totally what we should go on ahead and raid right now. Let's see, where was it? No, it wasn't you. It's this. So currently, okay, what is that? Oh, they're playing Delicious. Delicious is an excellent roll and write. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So that is what we're doing. We're finding Jess. All right, where are you? There we go. This is going to be great, folks. A great roll and write. And be warned, once you start watching, you'll be on a 24-hour live stream, but definitely give it a go. I don't think you'll be disappointed. So we are going to raid them in, where is it? Where's the button? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go get them, everybody. Raid. Now let's check them out and see if the raid worked. It worked. All right, folks. I'm going to go take a nap. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.